Right. Welcome everyone. I'd like to declare the meeting open at 5:30 p.m. Going to the opening procedures. First of all, I'd like to call on Councillor Williams to do the acknowledgement of country, please.
Shire of Northam acknowledges the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to country, culture and community, and embraces the vast cultural diversity throughout Australia. On the land of the Balladon Noongar and Whadjuk Noongar people where we meet, we acknowledge and pay respect to elders past and present.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Okay, we'll go on to item 2.2, recording of council meetings. We're all recording, are we? All systems go. Okay, so I'll just read that out. Members of council and members of the gallery are advised that this meeting will be live streamed and audio recorded and made available on the Shire of Northam's YouTube channel. If members of the public want to access the recording of the meeting, they can do so via the Shire of Northam website. Okay, we'll go into the attendance side of things. Item 3.1, attendees, council. Go around the table, starting from Councillor Williams, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Polton, myself, Kelly, Councillor Durack, and Councillor Bigland. Thank you very much. Okay, on the staff side of things, we've got our CEO, Mr. Herrlich, got the Executive Manager of Engineering Services, Mr. Hinman, sitting there. Executive Manager Development Community Services, Mr. Hunt. Acting Executive Manager Corporate Services, Mr. Devsich. Manager Governance and Risk, Ms. McCall. And Acting Governor and Risk Officer, Ms. Sheehan Lee. There's an apology from Councillor Ryan. Apparently stuck in Meriden at the moment, and may or may not turn up in the fullness of time. And the Shire President, Mr. Antonio, is, or Councillor Antonio, is apology as well. Item 3.3, approved leave of absence. There is nil. 3.4, absent is nil. Yeah, we'll move on to disclosures of interest, and at this stage I do have a number in front of me and I'll systematically go through them. Okay, Councillor Hughes has declared an interest in item number 13.1.2, request to lease reserve 6305 Minar North Road, Northam. It's an impartiality, and the request has been made by the Shire President, who is known to me. Councillor Polton, same particular item, 13.1.2, request to lease reserve 6305 Minar North Road, Northam. He's declared an impartiality, and Chris Antonio is known to me. Councillor Durack has declared an interest in item 13.1.2, request to lease reserve 6305 Minar North Road. It's impartiality. The applicant and adjoining landowner, Chris Antonio, is a fellow council member and Shire President. Thank you. Councillor Williams declared an interest in that same item, 13.1.2, request to lease reserve 6305 Minar North Road, Northam. It's an impartiality. The applicant is well known to me through council and is a fellow councillor and president. Councillor Bigland has declared item 13.1.2, request to lease reserve 6305 Minar North Road, Northam. It's an impartiality. The Shire President is known to Councillor Bigland. And there's another item. Sorry.
From the public, anywhere to say?
Yeah, thank you. And Item 13.2.1, RFT 11 of 2025, the Coates Road upgrade and impartiality. One of the tenderers is known to Councillor Biglan. And finally, Councillor Manchelli, item number 13.12, request to lease Reserve 6305 Minar North Road, and that's an impartiality. The Shire President advocating for the lease is known to me. Thank you very much. They're all the declarations I have to hand. If there's any others that might crop up during the course of the meeting, please let me know. Right. Moving right along. Right. Item number 5 is announcement by the presiding member without discussion. There's a fairly lengthy schedule there. We move on to item 6, public questions. Mr. Lech, did you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My interest in the application by a landowner, Plackline, adjacent to the Plackline 2G Road, is that he has made an application for the erection of an industrial shed on his property. My first question is, how is that particular property zoned at present?
We will have to defer to the
Zone rural.
Simply zoned rural?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. My concern is that in the past in the Shire of Northam, an exception has been made with the result that anywhere in the rest of the Shire of Northam, the original intent is completely done for. And if this were allowed, then it's obvious that an industrial building would obviously have to be permitted on every other application on rural land. And that is the basis of it. There are plenty of examples of this kind of thing happening when a council does the wrong thing and doesn't obey its own rules and regulations, because the most notorious example that everybody knows of course, is that big building down in on the waterfront. And the repercussions of that are still ongoing and will be ongoing, and it's pretty well impossible to stop the erection of high-rise along the waterfront. And
Yeah,
that is an example.
If I can just pull you up, please.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific question? You've already asked one question, which has been responded to by
Yep.
the Executive Manager Development Services.
I have no other particular question.
Were you seeking further information? No? Not
Well, I shall certainly be at the meeting next week.
Next week.
Take close attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public questions? Sir? Are you able to stand by the microphone at this corner of the table, please, so we can record?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm the public asking question. I'm from the Oakavalo estate subdivision.
Can we have your name, please?
Arthur Schroeder's.
Arthur
Schroeder's.
Schroeder's.
Yes, I can give you a copy of my
Yeah, right, okay.
I'd like a few questions on the regarding local planning scheme 6, amendment 22, to revise the use of conditions of lot 1951, the Coastal Rise. My first question is, as a resident of Oakavalo subdivision, why have I and my neighbours not received written notice from the Shire regarding the proposed amendments? These amendments have a direct critical impact on our community, current and selected lifestyle. The proposed changes, if implemented, will affect our community, and as such, we should have been advised thereof in sufficient time to submit our comments. This is such an important issue, we believe it should have been directly communicated by the Shire to the Alcoa residents in time for us to make appropriate submissions. I and some of my neighbours were made aware of this issue 2 days ago. This does not give us sufficient time to prepare submissions, the closure of which has already happened some time ago. This leads me to my next question. Question 2. We respectfully request the Shire postpone its final review of amendment number 22 for at least 1 month. This will give residents of the Alcoa Heights subdivision the opportunity and time to fully understand the implications thereof and prepare a formal response. Question 3. Finally, we suggest that in future the Shire put procedures in place to ensure that important and critical issues affecting our local community will be directly communicated to all residents. I can table it.
Thank you. Mr. Schroders, are you west of Bodeguero Road or actually in the Jacozo area?
No,
No, so-
it runs off Bodeguero Way. We're in the Bodeguero.
So you're east of Bodeguero, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Perhaps I can turn to the Executive Manager Development Services for a response to the questions that have been raised, please. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the, so you live in the Elca Bello resort, so not the Elca Bello estate, so to speak. Is that what you live in, the actual lifestyle village itself?
No, he's not.
No, not the lifestyle village. I'm talking about the subdivision.
Yeah, okay, subdivision. So yeah, according to the information I've got, it was advertised, given directly to surrounding landowners and placed on the website, etc. So I'm not sure why you wouldn't have got the letter.
Whose letter?
A letter from the Shire
To whom?
to the surrounding landowners. That's correct. So,
Surrounding landowners.
yeah.
And that includes
It does say, we've got the exact details of which landowners we're consulted with, but I can find that out at the next meeting.
I would like to, because I've spoken to quite a few Alcabello, Bodeguero Way landowners, and no one has received any written communication that I've talked to.
Okay. Right, yeah, okay, well, I'll definitely have that on note and provide that answer. The second question.
Well, on that, why would you write to only a few residents? Why not all? It affects all of us.
Look, I'm not into arguing with you. There is a process that we've got in a policy in terms of how far we write out in terms of adjoining landowners, etc. So we don't write out every person in the Shire. Obviously, we write out to those that we believe would be affected generally. So.
Well, everyone in that Bodeguero Way loop is affected by this. Every one of the residents.
That's your
If I can just interrupt, how far are you actually from the subdivision?
I'm in the subdivision.
You're east of Bodeguero
Correct.
on a livestock block, on a rural property.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
It's a 1 hectare or 2 hectare property. Is that
I
right?
think there's a 3 point something hectares, around about 8 acres.
Yeah. So from your place to the development on Jacozo Road, what would the distance be?
Approximately, as a crow flies, 700 metres.
700 metres. So the I think you'll find that the area for coverage of male is probably a lot less than that. Is that correct?
As I said, I think generally 500 metres.
500 metres, yeah.
Take that note, that question on note.
Notice, okay.
Sorry, what was that?
The executive manager is going to take the question on notice, and we'll bring it back to the meeting next week and provide a response to you in regard to that.
But I don't think that this particular subject you can put down to a distance. It is every one of our residents in that Bodega away loop. Some of them may be 1.5 k's away from the.
Yeah, some distance, yes.
But I happen to be closer to them.
Yeah, 700 metres you indicated, yes. Okay, so we'll take that on notice and the council staff will deal with it and have a response for the next meeting.
For my 3 questions.
For all 3. So you're tabling the questions, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So, but am I correct in assuming that the council is going to vote on this next week?
Next week?
Well, I'm suggesting or I'm requesting that you postpone that. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, obviously, the planning department will provide advice in respect of that, and we'll deal with the matter as it comes up next week.
Okay. What happens if you don't? What happens to all the residents that vote to go away?
Well, it's all contingent on the decision from our planning people in regard to the spatial separation from your place to Jacozo Rise.
But it's not just the spatial separation.
Well, it is.
It's the effect of any of these amendments that are proposed on our community. There are traffic conditions, there are all sorts of issues.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we appreciate that. Yeah.
There's no good saying it's a spatial thing. It's not only a spatial thing.
Yep, okay. All right, well, we'll take the questions on notice and it'll come back to council next week.
And will I get some notification or?
Well, the meeting's here at 5:30 next Wednesday.
I can attend.
Pardon?
I can attend the next week.
Most definitely.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Schroders.
Thank you.
Right, moving right along. Item number 7, response to previous public questions taken on notice. There's nil. Item number 8, receiving of petitions, presentations and deputations. I believe there's none. Presentations, 8.2, nil. 8.3, deputations. There are nil. Sorry. Does anyone in the public gallery like to make a statement?
I think I've already done so.
Well, yes, I think you have. So you're quite happy with that?
Yes, I shall be here next week.
Okay. Item number 9, applications for leave of absence. There are nil. Item 10, confirmation of minutes. Just lost it. Okay, item 10.1, confirmation of minutes from the ordinary council meeting held on the 26th of November 2025. There's a recommendation there. Is there anyone that's got any issue with that particular set of minutes? No? If not, we'll move on. Okay, item 10.2, notes from the council forum meeting held on, hang on, we're not there yet. We won't get into next week, so we'll worry about that next week. Item 10.3, confirmation of the minutes from this really. Is there any chance I can get a hard copy? No? Yeah, 10.3. Confirmation of the minutes from the special council meeting held on the 22nd of October 2025. There's a recommendation. Is there anyone that wants to make any comment in relation to those minutes? Not, I'll move right on. Item 11, items brought forward from for the convenience of those in the public gallery. We've done that. reports of committee meetings. Item 12.1. Item 12.1, the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting, which was held on the 27th of November 2025. And there's a number of recommendations there on page 13, over the page on 14 and 15. Is there any clarification on any of those minutes? No. We'll move right on. Right, we move on to officers' reports. In the CEO's office, item 13.1, CEO's office, 13.11, policy reviews. There's a recommendation on page 1. Are there any questions in relation to those policies? Councillor Williams, I saw your hand first.
On page 48, Code of Conduct of Councillors, Committee Members and Candidates, 10.10c.6 says that when, at the end of the comment, says where misrepresentation occurs, whether deliberate or inadvertent, the individual should take reasonable steps to clarify or correct the statement in the same forum. Can I just clarify that that would actually occur following a formal complaint process? That decision was made that misrepresentation had occurred. Thanks.
Would you like to respond to that? Huh? It'd be after a complaints process. Is that what you're saying?
It may not necessarily rely on that, but if, for example, somebody did feel that the comment was a misrepresentation, then the individual should take reasonable steps to clarify or correct the statement in the same forum as it was initially made. But I guess in terms of if it was considered to be a breach of the Code of Conduct, it could potentially relate to a complaint in regard to the Code of Conduct, or it could be that somebody feels that there was a misrepresentation, in which case the discussion would occur with the individual, and if there was agreement that there was a misrepresentation, then they would take reasonable steps to clarify that.
So who would actually make the decision that the misrepresentation had occurred?
I think if it wasn't actually agreed by the individual themselves that they perhaps had become aware that it may be a misrepresentation, then it obviously could be subject to a complaint through CP19, which is then how you manage complaints against behaviours under Division 3 of the Code of Conduct.
Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Councillor Polton, you had a question?
Yeah, mine was more of a general one about how much time and money it costs for Shire to go through reviewing policies and the cost of developing new ones. What was that on notice?
We can take it on notice. It depends on a number of factors, including the complexity of the policies. There are some policies that are fairly easy to determine and may not take as much time to develop those policies. Others may be much more complex and will take more time. It also depends too on how long it takes to workshop them with council and go through the policy process. It has been raised by the Audit and Risk Committee that we consider potentially extending the review time for our policies. So at the moment, council policies are every 2 years. We are considering whether we may extend that potentially to something like 4 years. But there are a number of factors. It's very difficult to say categorically this is how much it costs per policy.
Yes. And
Could we get a,
supplementary question?
could we get a yearly average of how much is spent?
An officer's time and councillor time?
I think that would be quite resource intensive because it depends on who has to be involved in the policy development as well. So in some instances it may be one officer developing the policy, but in other instances it may be 3 or 4 people across the organisation who are involved in developing policies.
So, okay, so at this stage we retain the policies for 2 years, but there has been a recommendation from the Audit and Risk Committee that it probably get pushed out a little bit. But I guess with some policies there's a need to make sure that they're still very current. Okay, so any further questions on that, on the recommendations on page 21? If not, we'll move on to page 72 in relation to the request for lease of Reserve 6305, Mina North Road. And we've got a whole bunch of declarations which I'll go through again. Yeah. So there was Councillor Hughes, Councillor Polton, Councillor Girac, Councillor Williams, Councillor Biglin, and Councillor Mancelli. Okay, and there's a recommendation on that one on page 77 and page 78. Are there any questions relating to one? Yes?
The idea is to fence it, and then I assume, is it that when everything's died off, they put sheep on it to eat the grass down, but not eat the seeds from the wild flowers? Is that the idea?
So I understand the reserve is partially fenced, but in terms of what's permitted on there, that'll be captured under the lease conditions. So it will be around, so for example, when native flora and fauna is like growing, there'll be restrictions on when they can use the reserve take for grazing. Otherwise, the fencing will need to be maintained outside of those periods that are permitted to be used for that purpose.
They could only use it for grazing for that purpose, couldn't they? Because they make money on a reserve.
No, so it's not to be for any profit generation.
The idea behind it would be to keep the grass down.
Yes, it would be around maintaining it, yeah.
Councillor Girac?
Yes, my understanding was that it was also used for grazing, so obviously the fencing was not maintained. Was that the responsibility of the Shire to maintain the fencing around the reserve?
I think there's some evidence in a previous report that was done that there may be some grazing that's currently occurring, although there was no sheep observed at the time, but there were droppings there. So there was some indication that it potentially has been grazed in the past.
So in regards to the fencing, was that fully fenced by the Shire and the fence deteriorated, or was never fully fenced?
It would be the Shire's responsibility to maintain the fence. However, I don't believe there's been much maintenance there in the Shire today.
So just a supplementary question regarding to, so was this brought to the attention of the Shire by the landowner, or was the Shire doing that?
So the item's been triggered by a request from the adjoining landowner.
Just a further question, I just, so if the adjoining landowner to maintain the fencing, obviously be responsible to maintain the reserve, preserve the flora, and responsible for the cost of the lease. And I just don't understand the reasoning behind it from the applicant's perspective, as obviously the reserve was used already in the past for grazing, and obviously most of the landowners livestock was grazing there. So I'm just wondering if there is anything else we need to know regarding this application.
So the proposal sets a peppercorn lease fee. So there'll be, besides the valuation and lease preparation expenses, there'll be no annual expenses because the peppercorn lease is proposed. Under the Local Government Act, we would have to advertise the disposal as well. So obviously officers are trying to manage public perception views in terms of what advantage could be perceived to a existing council member. And then by setting the market valuation being reimbursed by the Shire and the lessees, there's no expense to the Shire. So that's, I guess, where the officers are coming from in terms of managing that public perception risk. Yeah, and in terms of the past grazing, if it was being used, there was no set agreement for that, so it would be unauthorised.
And I guess in the actual agenda itself, in terms of the request from the applicant, they have indicated that they're seeking to formalise the property management of the reserve through an option of a lease. And the main reasons for this are to preserve the history of the site. There's a stone well and stone fencing used as an overnight holding and watering point for early colonial settlers. Maintain the site along with fire mitigation, fire management, including doing fire breaks, and supporting the environment, providing a fenced area, protecting wildflowers, native trees, and through fire breaks and fire mitigation. So that's the reason why the applicant has stated they are interested in taking over a lease of the site.
One more supplementary question. Only this one particular landowner is having a property adjacent to that particular reserve.
Is there only one adjoining landowner to the reserve?
There's possibly two, however, I'll have to take that on notice. I think there's maybe two, but they could potentially be owned by the same people. So I'll take that on notice and check how many other adjoining landowners there are.
So, just supplementary question, if there are more than that one landowner, obviously that needs to be advertised anyway. So they will be made aware of that risk.
So the Shire will have to give local public notice, so it'll be advertised on the Shire website, Facebook page, notice board, in accordance with the Act. So again, the whole community will have the opportunity to comment on the proposed disposal. So when we advertise, we have to list what the market value is and what we're proposing to dispose of it at that rate. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bicklin, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have pointed out that there is reserve for the purpose of water on this particular 8.75 hectares, which has a stone well. Is the intent of the lessee to utilise that well, or is it still a current water well?
We haven't been advised of any intent to use that. However, we can clarify before next week's council meeting.
Yes, Councillor Bolt, sorry.
Is there, how's the Shire going to measure any improvement on the area? So are they planning to photos for the lease, activate, and then inspect once a year?
Yep, so most all of our leases include laws around annual inspections, but where there's physical buildings, our infrastructure officer is commencing that process with those. But yeah, that's the intent, it would be an annual inspection.
Yes, councillor Williams.
As far as the valuation goes, is there any cover for the valuation which you couldn't actually do this, allow a peppercorn lease, or is it entirely up to the Shire regardless of the valuation comes back?
So council can set the rental valuation, can set the rent at an amount that it chooses. I guess it just has to be mindful of the valuation, what that might be returned at. So for example, if the council say got a valuation for $20,000 per annum property and decided to lease it for $1,000 per year, I guess that could raise some public perception issues. Often aren't expecting this one to return a high rental valuation, and also when this is advertised, it will be noted what the other contributions towards the matter are. So around preserving the site, the history, and the costs that are going to be borne by the proposed lessee.
No further questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on to page 113. That relates to item 13.1.3, request for boundary realignment, lot 10/1541 Collington Road, Calgie 6302. There's a recommendation on page 117. Are there any questions on this particular one? Apart from the fact that council are going to lose about $1,000 in rates a year. Yes, Councillor Holden.
And ask why they don't want to be in the Northern Shire anymore.
They are. We don't have that information.
Yeah, my understanding was it was to do with the access to their property from the Yorkshire. Is that part of it?
Yes, that is part of it, when that subdivision did occur. Yes, in terms of why they would prefer, I mean, but I guess officers have looked at it in terms of the natural topography of the area, and from officers' view, it does make sense to align with the river, which is one of the considerations of the board.
Are there very many situations like this within the Shire of Northern where they straddle the Northern Shire boundary and adjacent Shire?
I'm not aware of many, however, we've had property base to ascertain that. I don't believe there are many, if any. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not advocating that we go through the process of forming.
Yeah, so I think the Shire has dealt with a couple of these over the last 10 years. That it's not very common for this process to occur.
Yeah. Councillor Williams?
Just confirming that it's no cost to the Shire to get the realignment done.
No, so the recommendation includes negotiating those costs with the property owner, which is the same stance as York.
Did that clarify those points? Thank you. There's nothing else on that one. We'll go to page 125, item 13.2.1, engineering services, RFT 11 of 2025, Coates Road upgrade. And Councillor Biglan has declared an interest in this one by virtue of the fact that she knows one of the tenderers. There's a recommendation on page 128. Are there any questions in relation to this? Councillor
Can you
Hughes.
get a hard copy of this, the attachment, because it's that small you can't read it. When you make it big, it's
distorted.
Yes, we can provide that for next week.
So you'd like a little bit more clarity in
a
there?
little bit there, yeah. So it's there to read, isn't it? You can't read it.
The Executive Manager Engineering Services, would you like to come up? present this item or not?
I can take questions on required if you're looking at questions.
Yeah, it's not got it next week.
Pardon?
As long as we can read it before next week.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Bigland, you have a question?
I have two questions.
Oh,
Firstly, what is the extent of the work that we are undertaking on Coach Road, please?
So the scope was to profile the whole road and then take out about 200 mils, 150, 200 mils of gravel, put it back into this road base, and then compact it all, widen the shoulders is the main idea, to make it a bit wider, and then put on a 2-coat spray seal. Yeah. So it'll be edge line, centre line, it'll be a lot wider, a lot safer.
You might have to stop me halfway through this question. I'm not sure that I can ask it, but I'll try. The recommended tenderer that's been put forward, dollar value varies from the other tenderers.
Yep.
Are we concerned that there potentially could be variations considering the differences in the other tenderers? Sorry, I'm trying to ask it without giving away too much information.
Yeah, it's okay. No, so the same contractor undertook the Newcastle and Fitzgerald Street works,
Yes.
and they actually provided a saving from emission costs from Newcastle because the traffic management a bit cheaper. So they got some money back from that. It was a bit cheaper. So hopefully it would be the same theory that we might end up. We want to spend all this money that's fully funded, to be honest, but we don't think it'll go over because we can do it within the budget. We're pretty confident.
Thank you.
So just to clarify that the scope of the work, what these tenderers are identical?
Yep, yeah. So for all the conforming tenders, they were all identical. Yeah. And then the non-conforming ones put in alternatives of all different shapes and sizes, so it was very hard to assess every single one of those.
Yes, it was very confusing by one tenderer.
Yeah, it's confusing assessing them. Don't worry.
So just also another supplementary question. I noticed that in the ranking, the tenderer who is suggested to receive the job came up third. So is it because of the other two tenderers were above the budget?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So they were the only company to put in a conforming tender under the budget. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. Sorry, the attachments are confidential. Okay. Yeah, I've got a question in relation to the intersection of Great Eastern Highway and Coates Road. Main Roads are proposing to do a bit of work on that highway. Are they going to lower that hill?
Yeah.
So how do we go about the intersection meeting up at the same level type of thing?
So I've already spoken to Sanju, who came in here a few weeks ago, and he's going to provide the survey so we can marry in the two seals.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Sounds like you've covered off on it.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much. No further questions on that particular item? Okay. Sorry. Another question? No. No? Okay. Right. Go to page 130, item 13.3.1, the from Development Community Services, the recommendation from BFAT. Are there any questions on the recommendations, BFAT? There was a whole list of recommendations about Chad. Sorry, Mr. Hunt, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, well, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. The only major, issue, concern for council would be the change of terms of reference for proposing. The main one being reducing the number of elected members from 2 to 1. So yeah. there was some other discussion as we filed on the report about the support brigade, which now become a member of BFAC and subject to that process as well. But I think they would be the two main proposed changes. There was some change to the training requirements, which can be dealt with through the CEO under delegated authorisation. So yeah, but that would be the two main ones that changes.
Yeah, sorry, did you have a question, Councillor?
Yeah, so I also noticed the meeting locations, the venue have changed, so is it because of they no longer the committee of the shire?
Yeah, it was just to give some flexibility as to where they could be held. I think chance they could be held at the co-location facility in the future, but yeah, just give that flexibility.
I've got a supplementary question on that. What was the rationale between around reducing the number of elected members from 2 down to 1? Given that I'm on that committee, I don't think that was delved into very in depth on the day.
Yeah, I think you asked the question at the committee meeting that night, and I think the response from the chief was that mainly the Act, I guess, technically only need, his interpretation only need one elected member, but that's the decision of council. Ultimately, it's still your advisory committee. If you believe that 2 elected members should be present, and within your rights to determine that. I think the issue that I guess all major decisions still need to come back through council.
Yeah, that's right.
Though, speaking out there, I think, yeah, the more elected members that can be part of that discussion at the committee meetings, I think, yeah, generally that would be what we would support.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are presenting what the recommendations on that committee is.
Any questions, Councillor Bigler? No. Okay, thank you very much for that. Right, the next one is on page 151, item 13.3.2. Development application P25063, lot 15, Clackline 2J Road, Clackline storage building for industrial hoses. Do you want to speak to that one?
Oh, I think the report covered most of the issues, and the issue that was raised tonight, I guess the main concern being the land use, whether it's industrial or storage. The often interpretation is for storage, and there's been something we can put on that it can't be used for any other activity other than just storage. So again, it's an interpretation of what is storage or industrial use. So the Office of Assessment come to the conclusion that can be approved as storage with those specific conditions.
Yeah, I've got a question just in relation to the installation that's proposed. They're talking about 2 40-foot containers and one 20-foot container and a dome structure over the top. Does that really constitute a shed?
It's what's been classified as a storage facility.
Storage facility, yeah. Because I think the intention is to store some of the hoses inside the shed and also in the containers. So
that's my understanding.
All right, any questions, Councillor Bolton?
Can I clarify whether these or are these brand new used items, or are these ones that have been out used and this is storing things that are in?
So the question was,
are these new items, or are these ones that are currently being used for projects?
The materials being stored? Look, not aware of, to clarify that for the meeting next week.
Okay. No further questions? Okay, we'll move right on. Item on page 164, item 13.3.3. Proposed scheme amendment number 22, 51 Jacoso Rise, 1 Dowie. There's a recommendation on page 168. Any questions in relation to that? Councillor Hughes.
After hearing the speaker tonight, should this one be deferred for a week, a month, or maybe?
I think, as I said, we can clarify where exactly advertising was undertaken to, and then we can provide further information back to council prior to next week in determination before then.
Councillor Bigman, sorry.
My question is, why do the officers believe that the amendment, why do we believe that the amendment is considered minor when it removes the dwelling cap, increases density to R40 and changes the nature of the development? Because it is quite.
I think that in terms of the definition of minor amendment, terminology used by the West Australian Planning Commission, so it's not saying that potential impacts will be minor, it's saying that the process that you go through versus a minor versus a major scheme amendment is different. So it's terminology rather than the fact that there will be some effects.
Supplementary. So R40 dramatically increases the development yield for the development Aspen, because it's going to, correct me, am I correct in saying that smaller lots, it has higher efficiency for 40 dwellings per hectare? And it's probably, you know, what do we know what likelihood of how many dwellings they are intending to put there?
Certainly the increase in density does give that opportunity for, and stated, for an increased number of dwellings per hectare. It's still subject to a requirement for a development plan, which takes into all other factors, including the topography and vegetation, bushfire management, etc. So that would be a further process that they need to go through in terms of, and then that's when you would assess things like, I guess, traffic, any increase in traffic, etc. But yeah, there's still a process to go through in terms before they can increase that density, so to speak.
Once, if council approve there's no going back, is that correct?
No, it's like any other zoning, that's the maximum density coding for each area, so yeah, it's not. So and then it'll be obviously up to the applicant to put a proposal in whether it comply with that R40 density coding, that's correct.
So getting back to the notification of the surrounding property owners, my understanding was it's always been 500 metres. Is that's set in stone, is that?
There is a council policy. So I'll take that question on notice. I don't know the exact answer will be able to.
Okay, and I've just got another supplementary question, just in relation to the outline of the subdivision. Are we with the 10% public open space?
Again, that'll be a determination made at the subdivision stage. I guess it also depends depending on what configuration of subdivision. Yeah. If it's a strata title, then generally it's not required, but if it's a green title, then it will generally require 10% or a cash and blue component. So yeah, again, that would be something that would be included in that development plan and the further subdivision stage.
Okay, so what's been presented by the consultants may not necessarily come to pass, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's got another process to go through, but I guess it gives you an indication of what they're thinking. So,
yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, thank you very much for that. Any other questions? Councillor Paul, I did see the arm.
So this section isn't plumbed into the One Dowry sewage treatment plant, is it?
no, they have their own separate, self-contained septic system as such.
Will that need to get upgraded for this program?
Yeah, they certainly have to. There is an existing system, and they'll have to obviously upgrade that as per when they increase the density.
Yeah, the big one.
So is SU9 and SU12 that they're currently zoned under, is that an R30, what is considered an R30, or is an SU9 and SU12? The one's a parks and park home lifestyle village, and the other one is a retirement village, isn't it?
At that point, combining the special use zones, and coming back is removing the report or one of the special use zones, there was the provision for an aged care facility, so that's been removed from that. Yeah.
Does that, by changing it to an R40, does that remove the requirement for a buffer zone that backs on to the Emu Valley ponds?
No, it doesn't remove it, and that's certainly, as stated in the officer's report, it's will be one of the issues that would be needing to be considered as part of that approved for development plan. So there's still, it's not removing it completely, it's just saying that it needs to be considered as part of that development plan.
Right, any further questions? If not, we'll move right on. We now jump to page 306, 13.4.1. Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Okay, Executive Manager, Services. Like to join the table? Place there up, Bruce, huh? Yeah, I've got the same problem with mine, I'm sorry, but yeah, I know. And it's pretty frustrating when you're trying to share it, but that's another story. All right, okay, we've moved on to page 306, account statements and statement of accounts, November 25. Any questions in relation to the recommendation on page 308? Questions, councillors? No, if not, we're on paper, I'll send it. Okay, we'll move on to page 353, item 13.4.2, financial commitments for the period ending the 30th of November 2025, and there's a recommendation on page 355. Are there any questions pertaining to that particular item? If not, looks like you're done, so thank you very much for your attendance. Okay, right, we'll move on to page 376, and this is behind closed doors, so we'll have to have a mover for that, please. Councillor Hughes moving, and we're going to seconding. All in favour? Carried. sleep. Right. Now, move on to page 377. Councillor Polton, you've moved a motion. 15.1, advocacy with Great Eastern Highway upgrades. Take the motion. Well, hang on, first of all, we need a second, don't we?
This will be considered next week, so tonight it's just a question.
Oh, question, sorry. Yeah, well, are there any questions to Councillor Polton?
Just put a question to like generally like we do.
Yeah.
Is there any reason we can't try and push to get police on that road continuously? Years ago, there used to be a policeman. His name was Weeks, Harry Weeks.
I remember him very
Harry
well,
Weeks
thank you.
had been on that road for 20 years. He was that strict on people. He even had a truck bay named after him until he did the work and got rid of the truck bay.
Truck bay, that's
I
right.
doubt that was getting rid of
That's what he
it,
called
got
it.
rid of the truck bay.
But
But that's what they need, and he caught people, didn't he?
he did, yeah,
And he made the place safer.
he did. Yeah, and had a
So
very
it needs to
nice
be
car,
controlled.
Falcon
It
GT.
needs to be patrolled. It's not of the problem on that road I'm talking now. It's not the road, it's the behaviour that's being encouraged.
Well, I guess we'll debate that next week. You want to raise the question, sir?
It's going to be fun. Just a couple of small things. It says that, so this is an issue that wanting to raise before main routes. The most recent presentation, so this is a response to whatever it says, just a happy coincidence that they will not spend time. Questions that are in there. And points that I wanted to make was where it refers to the areas that their planning has been significant.
Yeah. Is it a question?
Can we can we include one of the previous items that I had which was to send a letter out to all West Australian state and federal politicians regarding this item or these issues?
So that would be included as part of point 2. So if the Shire President was given the ability to advocate, they would be advocating to the relevant state and federal ministers and anybody else who it was considered appropriate to advocate in terms of upgrades to Great Eastern Highway. So that would be included as part of the advocacy that would be undertaken should Council support this motion.
We've got a list of the people considered to be
Key players in the
key players.
in this space. Might have to amend your motion.
We can provide information as to who we think we would write to on behalf of the Shire President, but that's subject to Council adopting the motion.
Does that answer your question, sir?
The Shire has over the past 30 years, the Shire has previously advocated to get upgrade and improvements along Great Eastern Highway. Has that led to any significant expenditure?
Yeah, I think we did take it on notice and find out a little bit more as to the role that our advocacy played in some of the upgrades that we've seen. But certainly, over the last 10 years, we've seen slip lanes, acceleration lanes, turning pockets, widening, localised widening, resurfacing. So those types of initiatives greatly improve safety for Northern Shire residents as well.
Any further questions? Councillor Bigland.
Can I just ask for some clarity around, within the motion of number 0.3, you request main roads go on to undertake the safety assessment, blah, blah, blah. Is this further east of what has already been proposed now, knowing what main roads will do? Are you asking for it to be past where they're stopping, or is it still, you're still wanting changes on where they're proposing their changes to?
So their last proposal was to improve some of the turning lanes and entrances and exits along that section of road. It's my feeling that 30 years.
You're out.
So it's my feeling that 30 years ago they stopped upgrades on Great Eastern Highway at the lakes. So this is concerning to all parts of Great Eastern Highway that our local commuters use, not just the section of Great Eastern Highway that's within the Northern Shire. The sections that they're upgrading now, I feel, could be extended to increase Great Eastern Highway to the 2 lanes in each direction, just about the whole way between the lakes and Northern. So currently, about half of the road is 3 lanes, with if you look at it, with overtaking lanes, and apart from a couple of small sections, I don't think it's unreasonable achievement to upgrade it to 4 lanes in each direction, like they've done between the lakes and Boys Valley.
Okay, Councillor Williams.
Yes, can I just ask, so is the Shire still advocating for the orange route, or whatever it's called now, as we always have in the past?
Yes, that is certainly a council position that we advocate for. I think it's now called the Perth Adelaide National Highway, yes.
Any further questions on that particular item, folks? If not, we'll move right on to.
Just clarify, we're taking, Councillor Poulton, did you want specific outcomes from the advocacy role that the Shire played in terms of safety and what's been introduced from main roads for road safety improvements? That was your question earlier?
Yeah, it was just, is there, do we get a reasonable outcome from the Shire advocating for improvements along a federally managed and funded road? How well do they actually listen to us and initiate a response?
We can find out, well, it's difficult to assess whether it's a direct impact of the Shire's advocacy, given that there probably are a lot of community members, the Shire, the local members of Parliament, Shires further to the east of us who have also been advocating as well. But we certainly know that there's a fairly major upgrade that is happening to the section of Great Eastern Highway that Main Roads presented to us on. But it's difficult to say whether it's just the Shire's advocacy, because there are a lot of people who are advocating, I believe, for upgrades to Great Eastern Highway.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers that. So there's no further questions in relation to that particular item. If not, we'll move right along to page 398, item number 16, urgent business approved by decision. I don't believe there is any. Item 17, declaration of closure at 6:40 p.m. Thank you everyone for your indulgence.